Hello folks, welcome back to the Speed Shack. Today, something a little bit different. Camera is where the V8 used to be. V8 has gone, officially, and the money from the V8 has been ploughed back into the E30 in true petrol head fashion. And today, we've picked up a rotisserie. Not for a chicken, Mum. We have all of the stuff from Adrian Foreman Light Engineering. He's on Facebook, eBay. It's a well-priced rollover jig. Comes in kit form, about 1 meter long, all flat packed. Absolutely brilliant piece of kit. It's all height adjustable and universal for cars of this kind of size. So we've got a ruck of steel work on the bench. All of the uprights, horizontals, longitudinal pieces joined together. Some universal mounts. Everything's laser cut, and it's all very nicely put together. So today, instead of actually messing around doing stuff to the E30, we can get this jig together and hopefully get the car mounted on it. Let's crack on. Right then, she's together. It was a relatively simple procedure. The instructions are, they're alright, they're not the best. There's a couple of little bits missing off it that you've got to figure out yourself, but if you're mechanically minded, if you're actually going to be using one of these things to restore a car, you should be able to figure it out quite easily. It's not really that difficult. There was one slightly damaged thread on one of the lower stays, which again, it's not really a big deal. Bolt went in eventually. Cross-threaded is tight, right? Kinda. So now, let's have a look at what we've got. So, you can see this is the controlling end with the indexing plate and the detent pin. And whilst we've got the attachments here, we haven't got anything to attach to the car itself, which is where these mounts come in. So these will mount onto here, and we'll have to put a bend in them somewhere around there, and that way we can bolt them into there. And I think we've got two options with these. You can see we're going to mount it off the bumper mounting points there, and they'll go on just fine. However, it's quite evident we're going to need some form of spacer, ideally, to bring them out flat, or we can do the hillbilly thing and put a cut in there, cut in there, cut in there, and cut in there, peen them out, and then pull them back in when we're done, which is by far the easiest and quickest way. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We've got to get a little bit sketchy on this at some time, haven't we? And if we come around to the back of the car, so at the back we've got the rear bumper mounting points are here, but there's only one of them. So we've got a couple of choices. We can either bolt through there, drill another hole and use that, and then when we're done we'll weld up this hole and deal with that afterwards. Or we can go off these points down here near the jacking point, which I'm not quite sure what they are for. There was nothing bolted onto them when I've come to do the car, so I'm not quite sure what's there. However, that does pose an issue on this side, because this side has got a lovely bit of bodge on it and a bit of filler, and I'm not entirely convinced that there is going to be strong enough to do it. So I think what I'm going to do is we'll use these bumper mounting points, because they are dead solid, there's no rot around them at all, and we'll just drill another hole or two to mount through as well. But that is a job for another day, because we haven't got enough time left in the workshop this evening. But as you can see, we have the rotisserie. Yes, I've screwed up. I've put this on the highest setting, the other end is on the lowest setting. They both need to be on the same setting. You can't have one higher than the other, so it will bind up and centre of gravity will be screwed up. But overall, I'm pretty happy with these. Obviously, the proof will be in the taste test, and we'll see how well she rotates and whatnot. We've still got to pull the rear subframe off, but for near as makes no difference, 400 quid, you can get a flat pack, rollover jig, rotisserie, spit, whatever you want. So fingers crossed, tomorrow we are going to spit roast this beautiful 34-ish year old bird. We had to throw it in somehow. I've been waiting for that whole video. Right, so we skipped forwards about, I don't know, 5 hours or so, and we're in a position where the E30 is on the rotisserie, it's on the rollover jig. It involved a little bit more than I'd anticipated. I had to cut and weld the universal mounting brackets. They're meant to be bent, but they're 6mm steel, so it's much easier to put a cut through them, bend them, reinforce them with a good weld. And it also necessitated the removal of the rear subframe, diff assembly and fuel tank from the BM. I didn't really need to remove the fuel tank, except I had no idea how much fuel was left in this thing. You could hear a bit of a sloshing, so I erred on the side of caution and removed the tank anyway. That way it saves spilling potentially gallons of fuel all over the floor when you do tip it on its side, which would be a bad day for everyone. So, what have we learned? These things don't roll that easy. From horizontal, kind of 45 degrees, yeah, it's pretty easy and superb. You want to go 90 degrees and have the car on its side, things get a little bit more involved, because this car has got the glass and the closures still on it. These jigs are designed, and it says in the instructions, for a bare shell, so the whole thing completely stripped back. However, it does say the maximum weight limit is 700 kilos, and this is way under 700 kilos. Now I can lift the front of the car on my own and the back of the car on my own, obviously levering off one end and the other. So I estimate this is probably only half a ton as it sits here with the glass in it, at most. And when you get to 90 degrees, because all of the weight of the glass is at the top of the car, you get to 90 degrees and that weight suddenly is over to the side, so it wants to swing it down. And that caught me a little bit by surprise and nearly ended up with the entire side glass and corner of the roof embedding itself in the floor. So only because of my superhuman strength, that's right, He-Man here saved the day. And it was a tough battle. So, taking a few precautions, let me show you. We'll start here. So, what you can see is the E30 on its side. The jig holds up remarkably well. There's no real bending or anything like that involved. You can see I've put a check strap here. So this is a normal ratchet strap attached to the bottom of the rollover jig and to the towing guy, and that stops the car from overbalancing one way or the other, and it also takes some of the strain off this indexing pin, which would otherwise be bent by the weight of the car, I think, because there is a significant amount of weight in that glass. So check strap is on there for safety, just so I don't smash all the side glass and the roof pillars into the floor and bottom of the rollover jig. Additionally, down the bottom here, we've got another couple of ratchet straps. There's not a lot of tension on these anymore. We used them to pull the bottoms of the jig in whilst we were positioning the car on them, and that is to get the ends completely parallel and vertical. And then once the weight of the car went on them, what little bit of sag there was in the lower cross member, which you can see if I get right down on the floor, you can see the cross member going the whole length of the underside of the car. You probably can't see the bit that's under the car at the minute because I haven't got the camera low enough, but hey ho. And there was a little bit of sag in that, but the sag disappeared once we got the tension on the car. But in all, very happy with this. It could do with some form of rotary handle, but obviously that will increase the cost of this jig a dramatic amount. You've got the gear assembly to go with it. It would just this whole turning it by hand with the weight that's in this, it is quite difficult. I also had some issues with the uprights binding on the lower portion of the framework. Whilst we were raising it and lowering it, I've sprayed that gratuitously with a bit of chain lube. And I've also put daubings of grease on the adjustment screws. Other than that, everything's good. I like to err on the side of caution with a couple of fail-safe pins. They are there for my peace of mind, but in general, very happy. And now, in the next couple of videos, we are going to get wire wheeling the entire underside of this thing off, and hopefully get it ready for finish welding on the underside of the car so we can start on that rotten rear end. But there you have it. One rollover jig, complete, car on it, rolling relatively nicely. Recommend. Good thing to have. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, folks, and we'll see you next time.